Mahatma Gandhi said, there would be nothing to frighten you if you refuse to be afraid. Yes, if a person refuses to afraid, there is nothing that can frighten a person. So, with this note, let us continue. What is a POSH Act? We will study detail about the POSH Act and we will cover POSH Act, its features, where it is applied, how we can go ahead to implement POSH Act in our organization. POSH Act is called Prevention of Sexual Harassment of Women at the Workplace. Dear friends, our goal is to create a safe and inclusive work environment for women at the workplace. We just start with a module 1. What does module 1 cover? Understanding of the gender issues at the workplace, women perspectives. What is POSH Act? Why is it important? What is sexual harassment? Why it occurs? And what are the 10 key provisions? What are the do's and don'ts under POSH Act? A small quiz, and this is module 1. Later on we will cover the module 2. So let's begin with module 1. Understanding of gender issues at workplace. It's very important to understand what is a gender and how does that gender behave at the workplace. So firstly, let's begin with what is a gender. Is gender a biological representation of mankind or something else? Let's see. Gender is a socially construction notion. It's not about your biological characteristics only. It's not only about the men and women. It's a more about something. So what is that? In our society, we are assigned different roles. So the gender is determined by the conception of task, functions, roles, responsibility attributed to women and men in a society and in public places. So gender is not only the biological characteristics, it's more about the role and responsibilities, how the men and the women behave, how the men and the women functions, different roles in the society. So this is a gender. How women and men are different. Yes, both are different by their interest, how they interact with each other, how they express their feelings. They are different. They are different in the convention and the hierarchies, the roles and responsibilities. Women and men's position in the society, family, community, that varies. And mostly they are dominated, women's are dominated by men. Also, women and men are different based on their age, their wealth, their ethnic background. Let's come next. What is gender inequality? Why there is a discrimination against women based on their sex? There should not be any discrimination, but still there is a discrimination. What's the reason? Because women are accorded a subordinate position to men, exploited, degraded, violated. They are not only discriminated in their houses, but also in the outside world. So traditionally, they are a weaker sex as compared to men. Also, the another is patriarchal relations. There is a gender discrimination, women's dependence on men. So mostly it's like that the women belong in the home while men will go outside and do some chores for earning the bread of the family. So there is a gender inequality in total. How to bring this gender inequality to equality in workplace? How we can convert this? How we can break the barrier of gender inequality so that both the genders are equal? Yes, it is very important to bring gender equality at the workplace, but how? We must begin with equal pay for women and men, removal of barriers in their promotion, in their participation, in their leadership roles, elimination of discrimination on the basis of gender. We should avoid or stop this. So this is the way that we can bring gender equality. If we will see that both the men and the women are equal, then that organization will have better productivity. What are the benefits of workplace gender equality? Dear friends, if we bring gender equality at the workplace, it's it's a creation of a diverse workforce. Attraction of top talent is in the organization. It improves the performance. Expenses will be reduced when there is no attrition in the organization. The reputation of the organization will be increased that this organization is providing equal opportunities to the men as well as the women. There is the access to the larger pool of talent. It improves the productivity at the national and the international level when the women is a part or giving contribution to the workforce, and the organizational culture of that organization will also improve. So these are certain benefits of workplace gender equality. We as an organization must work towards gender equality and bring all those opportunities to the men as well as the women at the workplace. So this is a base about the gender equality. So gender is nothing but beyond biological characteristics. It's about the roles and responsibility the men and the women executes in their social, in their society, in their workforce, in their workplace, and all the aspects of life. So we must work towards the gender equality. Women perspective and the roles. What are the various roles that women is going through? Being a woman, it's a matter of a proud that you are a woman. We as a women play different role in different aspects of life. A daughter, a mother, a wife, a sister, mentor, grandmother, daughter-in-law, mother-in-law, a friend, a mentor. But dear friends, beside these roles, as of now, because women want to support their family, have some certain career aspirations, so this women is playing diverse role, doing multitasking these days. In the modern era, the role of the woman is just transitioned from the core role to the additional roles and responsibilities. And this woman is educated, this woman is having career aspirations, this women want to contribute towards country, this woman want to bring change in the society. So the role of the women is changed as of now, and she is entered into a professional world where this woman is able to utilize her skills. But what happened? Let us see. When the woman enters this professional world, she has to face certain challenges at the workplace. What are those challenges that this women face? Let us understand. Gender pay gap. Yeah, there is a women discrimination. There is a gender discrimination. So there is a gender pay gap is there. Glass ceiling. Always there is a glass ceiling. There are barriers to her promotion, to her opportunities. Prior stereotypes and bias she has to face. This woman can't work because the society just gave that vision to the traditional concept that women should be inside the house, not go outside. So she has to face that also. Work life balance struggle. She has to maintain a balance at the workplace as well as the personal life, roles and responsibility towards their children, unequal access to opportunities. Being a woman, she faced a challenge that she's not accessible to equal opportunities. Lack of flexibility. If a mother is at a workplace, is she given a ample flexibility at the workplace? Imposter syndrome. She also faced that a self-doubt problem. Is she capable? That will she be able to do in spite of the same education? She is doubting her capability. She's not able to do. She is just self-doubting herself. That is the. And lastly, sexual or gender-based harassment. So she has to face the sexual or gender-based harassment where the people around her used to do certain kind of a harassment. She's not aware of that is she harassment. She just came out of the house to support her family for her career aspirations, not for gender harassment. But she faced these certain challenges when she's at the workplace. Let us move ahead and know, how do we women usually respond when sexually harassed? What's the reaction? And what are the types of responses? Firstly is a non-responsive behavior. Mostly women just ignore this. Okay, कोई बात नहीं, next time नहीं होगा. Avoid this. Self-help, tell family or friends, very rare. And mostly women, the self-help the women did is just leaving the organization, not reporting this kind of a behavior. Okay, so this is totally a non-responsive because this doesn't record in the any complaints. Informal responses. Second category is informal responses. Addressing the problem without filing an official complaint. The women don't file an official complaint. Just confront the harasser that, okay, you will not do this next time. I'm just leaving you because you are assuring that you will not behave next time. Again, this type of a complaint will never comes into record. Now the thing is, what comes into record? Dear friends, the only formal responses comes into the record. Filing a report to the HR department or the IC committee or the police when women face this type of a harassment, and when she files a complaint to the specific HR department or to the concerned authorities, only the reports or the complaints are recorded, and the data that we see through different angles or different perspectives are only this type of a complaint, formal complaints. So dear friends, it means that there is a lot of harassment that is not being recorded due to XYZ reasons. So that is the type of responses. Let us go ahead. Why POSH Act? What is the use of a POSH Act? Why is it necessary that the POSH Act is required by an organization? So let us see. It is a statutory requirement as per the government to implement POSH Act at the workplace. Dear friends, like we file the GST returns, we file the income tax return. So similarly, this is a statutory requirement as per the government. If we don't implement it, it means that organization's license may also get cancelled in that instance. So this is the mandatory requirement for the women safety, that organization must implement POSH Act at the workplace. Let us take a data of the female labor force participation rate and understand few withdrawing. Female labor participation rate, this labor force participation of, this is the percentage of 15 years and above. So 2017 to 18, what we saw here, that the labor force participation rate, that is always going increased. Okay, so this means that if labor force is going to increase in our organization, then the number of harassment cases may also get increased. And there is a need of a law that can protect women at the workplace who is a part of a workforce. This is the data from this is the periodic labor force survey report released by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation on 9th October 23. So the withdrawing is that labor force participation rate is increasing from 2021-22 to 22-23. It's been increased by 4.2%. Let's move ahead. World Bank's World Development Indicator Database. Let's have a look and find out what this database indicator is going to tell us. Only 23% of the Indian population forms a workforce comprising women. In 23, it was seen that not over 10% of the Fortune 500 companies had a women CEO or MD globally. Why? And only 100 out of the 2000 companies listed on NSE had women CEOs. Situation is alarming. Is a case of gender discrimination, or women are not giving ample opportunities, or there is always a glass ceiling that women are not at the leadership position in numbers. So this is the database. Let's move ahead and understand the environment of a harassment. What is this? An employee works in an organization. Okay. In an organization, there is a workplace where that person performs his duty. Harasser, the person who harasses a woman, victim, the woman who get harassed. And if the women at the workplace is harassed by a harasser in an organization at a workplace, it means there must be a redressal of complaints as per the POSH Act. So this is a environment. Let us move ahead. What is sexual harassment? We are talking of sexual harassment, although we will go cover the things in detail. But initially, let us see what is sexual harassment. It's an unwelcome sexual behavior that's offensive, humiliating, intimidating, make someone feel upset, feared, scared, offended. This is an unwelcome behavior of sexual nature. Dear friends, the women is at the workplace for work only, not for harassment. So, any unwelcome behavior that's offensive, intimidating, that is creating fear, feeling the woman is getting upset, that is a sexual harassment. It happened without a consent. It can be verbal, non-verbal, physical, or can happen in person or in even online. Sexual harassment is never funny and should not be happening in any organization. Okay. So this is a brief about the sexual harassment. We will cover the topic in detail in next slides. What does the law say about the sexual harassment? It's a clear violation of fundamental rights of women to gender equality as guaranteed under Article 14 and 15. Her right to live with dignity under Article 21 and her right to practice any profession, work with dignity in a safe environment under Article 19(1)(g) of the Constitution of India. So, dear friends, sexual harassment is a complete violation of the fundamental rights as per our Constitution. Let us move ahead and find out what is the need of the POSH. Why is it important? Let us take a look at the survey by Indian National Bar Association, where 6047 women participated, where 78% of the women, and these people are from the different industries. What are the conclusions? 38% women face sexual harassment. This data says that 38% women face sexual harassment. And in this 38% women, 68.9% refrained from complaint. They don't want to complain this issue due to fear, due to lack of confidence. And 42.2% females say that they are not feeling safe or protected at the workplace. So how the women will work, dear friends? Next, we just look into the aspect why this harassment occur, why this sexual harassment occurs. What are the various reasons? Let us find out. Roots in patriarchy. Yes, women are a weaker sex. Men are always superior. Even the roles and responsibilities are decided based on the gender. A display of power. The person who is at a powerful position may utilize his power. Gender inequality. The violence against women is acceptable because he is a weaker sex. Lack of awareness. Women doesn't know what to do. Is that a sexual harassment or not? Women doesn't know. The organizational culture is not supportive. There is a social stigma. What the people will say, women is always feared. Also, there is a fear of retaliation and lack of policies and enforcement. So these are the few reasons that the sexual harassment occurs at the workplace or in common. Why women not report sexual harassment? If something happens to a woman, why she not report the sexual harassment? Shame. She's feeling shameful. Oh, how I will report. I'm fearful of facing these kind of a repercussions, a negative consequences. The woman is having a low esteem after having this heinous harassment. Feeling of hopelessness, feeling bad about her. She's scared of society, what the society will think, don't know where to report, whom to contact. The organization is not supportive sometimes. There is a lack of trust in the system. The employer is itself a harasser. So where the female will report? and minimization of the incident. This is happening just for once. It will not happen again. Sometimes these are the situations, these are the reasons that women not report sexual harassment. But dear friends, sexual harassment at the workplace is the violation of the fundamental law and covered in the POSH Act. So we must act using the POSH laws. How the POSH Act formed? Dear friend, let us move to the situation, the reasons why the POSH Act, what's the basis why the POSH Act is formed. Even pre-1997, whenever there is a case of sexual harassment, that's covered under IPC 1860, section 354 and 509 mostly, and which says that if there is a criminal assault of women to outrage women's modesty, it is covered under section 354. Punishment for using word, gesture, or act intended to insult the modesty of women, that is covered under section 509. So pre-1997, the situation which leads or the causes that leads to the harassment cases are covered under IPC section 354 and 509. Next, let us take a step ahead and understand during 1992, this lady is Bhamri Devi. This lady was working as a Sathin in Women in Development project in Rajasthan, in Bhateri village. So during her work, she was assigned a job to stop early childhood marriage. While she was executing her work to stop early childhood marriage in her village, he tried to stop one marriage of 1 year child, and in return she was raped by the superior community people. And also when this woman just raised a voice, no action was taken and the people just released, and this case was just a matter of a talk. Later, during 1997, the Supreme Court of India gave a landmark judgment in the Vishakha and others versus State of the Rajasthan 1997 case with a Vishakha guideline. And what is that Vishakha guideline? Let us understand this. Dear friends, Vishakha was a group that raised a PIL in the Supreme Court for this Bhamri Devi case, and the Supreme Court, based on the Constitution and the International Convention CEDAW, based on the recommendation of this convention and the Constitution, this Supreme Court just gave a judgment named Vishakha Guidelines, and just contributed that now onwards that all the sexual harassment cases will refer the Vishakha guideline. What was specific in this Vishakha guideline? In Bhamri Devi case, the whole there was serious lapses in the law. There was no law that protected women at the workplace. And so in Vishakha guideline, firstly, the Supreme Court just defined what is sexual harassment. It shifts the accountability from individual to the employer. And it prioritizes the prevention, provides and provision of an innovative redressal mechanism. And later on, all the cases refer these Vishakha guidelines for their cases. Okay. During 2007 onwards, Women Protection Bill came into the Parliament, and during 2012-13, it passed in the during 2012 it passed in the Lok Sabha, and in 2013 Rajya Sabha, and then the POSH Act, Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Provision and Redressal Act came. Two important things to understand this here, to know here. The POSH Act received the President's Assent and was published in the Gazette of India as an Act number 14 of 2013. And the Indian Ministry of Women and Child Development notified December 9, 2013 as the effective date of the POSH Act and the POSH rules. So this is the history of how the POSH Act is formed. What is POSH Act 2013? The Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. This is an act to provide three things, dear friends. Protection against sexual harassment of women at the workplace. Second, for the prevention, and third thing is redressal of complaints. We will protect women at the workplace. We will prevent the sexual harassment, and if there is certain cases, we will do the redressal of complaints of sexual harassment and for the matters connected therewith or the incident there too. So this is a POSH Act. The three objectives of the POSH Act is protection of women, prevention of sexual harassment in the organization, and the third is if there is something, redressal. So protection, prevention and redressal. POSH Act implementation structure. What's the implementation structure? The POSH implementation structure is that firstly, the WCD Central Women and Child Development is the ministry in which the POSH Act comes at the central level. Under this, there is a WCD state level, Women and Child Development of every state, district collector. In every state, there is a district collector and then district Women and Child Development Officer of that state. So this is the POSH Act implementation structure. Next comes key provision of the POSH Act 2013. What are the major key provisions? Although there are many key provisions, but we will take and discuss the 10 most key provisions that are most necessary to understand the POSH Act. The first thing is applicability. Where it is applicable, it is applies to the whole of India, organized and unorganized sectors, and mandatory for all workplaces with more than 10 or more employees to apply the POSH Act at the workplace. Next comes the aggrieved women. Who is the aggrieved woman? In POSH law, the aggrieved woman is a person who claims to have sexual harassment at the workplace. Means the person of any age, whether employed or not, to whom this sexual harassment happened. Now, what type of a women is that? Women working in a dwelling place. Okay, like maids in the houses, they are also protected under POSH law. Now, this protection is not limited to only employees. It's not like that women who are employees are protected under the POSH law. Beside that, the customers or client visiting a workplace, if you are a customer or a client who are visiting a certain workplace, so you are protected under the law, and aggrieved women is the women to whom this sexual harassment crime had happened. Let us understand it in a more detailed way. Aggrieved women, if you are a working woman, being a student, or women visiting a workplace. Working means either you are working being at a regular, temporary, ad hoc basis, being an employee, domestic worker, even if you are for a remuneration or a voluntary basis or otherwise. Okay, employed directly or through an agent, contract worker, probationary, on a trainee basis, or called by any such name. The point is that if you are a working professional in any capacity, if you are a student, if you are a woman visiting a workplace, if you are employed or not, doesn't matter. You are protected under POSH Act and can claim to have that protection being a aggrieved women. Aggrieved women means again the women to whom this sexual harassment happened. What is sexual harassment? Let us add one more step to understand this. Section 2N will define sexual harassment under the POSH Act, includes any unwelcome acts or behavior, whether directly or implied, such as physical contact or advances, a demand for sexual favors, making sexual colored remarks, to someone, showing pornography, any unwelcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. This is sexual harassment. Now the question is, how this sexual harassment occurs or not? Who will decide? So this woman will decide at his own that sexual harassment happened to her or not. This woman, if she is feeling uncomfortable due to any of these acts or behavior, if she is feeling uncomfortable, so that woman will decide that this is a sexual harassment. If a woman is not feeling comfortable, that is sexual harassment. But suppose if the woman is feeling comfortable, okay, then it is not. Workplace sexual harassment is a behavior that is unwelcome, sexual in nature, a subjective experience, means we can't quantify it. It's so painful. We have to understand the subjective aspect of this. Its impact matters, not intent. We will not consider the intention of the harasser. The women may get a psychological impact, career-related impact. Often occurs in a matrix of power. The people who are at a powerful position, they may utilize their power to undergo sexual harassment. Let us understand various circumstances which may constitute sexual harassment. Section 3(2) of the Act outlines situation where an act or behavior may be considered as sexual harassment, implicit or explicit, either indirectly or through a suggestive way. If someone is offering a special treatment in her job, threatening or negative consequences for her employment, threatening someone for her current or a future job status, interfering with her work, or creating an environment that is intimidating or offensive or hostile, subjecting her to humiliating environment that could impact her health or her safety. If someone is doing these things, it means that is also considered as a sexual harassment, whether directly or in a suggestive way. What is a sexual behavior? We call unwelcome and welcome behavior. Let us understand and recognize the difference between this. Welcome and unwelcome. If I will say good morning to a person, what is the reply? Good morning. But if I am using bad words to a person, what will be the reply? Maybe that person is offended. So that is unwelcome behavior. Dear friends, if you are feeling good, that is a welcome. And opposite of this, if feeling bad, unwelcome. Reciprocal, the both way. If it is, that is welcome. And if it is one-sided, if someone is pushing, forcing someone, hitting someone, pushing someone, that is one-sided. If the behavior is in control, that's a welcome. If it's a powerless, it's unwelcome. If there is a equality from both sides, it's a welcome. And if it is power-based, someone is forcing power. If it is wanted, welcome. If not wanted, unwelcome. If it's a legal thing that we are doing something legally, it's welcome. If it is illegal, it's unwelcome. If it is open, everyone is open to speak, it's a welcome. If it is invading, it's unwelcome. If it is appreciative, it's welcome. It's not appreciative, you are passing comments to someone, it's unwelcome. If someone is happy, it's a welcome. If someone is causing anger or sadness of the behavior, it is unhappy. And if it is creating a positive self-esteem, it's a happy behavior, it's a welcome behavior. If it is causing a negative self-esteem, it's a unwelcome behavior. Sexual behavior is unwelcome, unwelcome, and unwelcome. As any employee in an organization, we must work towards creating welcome behaviors, not unwelcome behavior towards other employees. These are certain examples you can see through how the people are just trying to touch others, even Women don't want. Women is saying no, still the people are involving. So these are certain examples. Next key provision is employee. Who is an employee? Okay. Employee means a person who is employed at a workplace for any work on regular or temporary basis, ad hoc or daily wages, through a contractor or agent, with or without the knowledge of the principal employer, whether for remuneration or not, voluntary basis, contract basis, probationer, trainee, apprentice, intern basis. So this is the employee. Next comes employer. Who is an employer? Section 2G 1, 2 and 4 will define the employer in charge of a department, organization or a workplace. Someone responsible for managing or supervising and controlling the workplace. Household employer who hires or benefits from the domestic services like your maid. Let us understand in a detailed manner. Employer. Employer means workplace of government or a local bodies. Who works in a private workplace? Employer of a dwelling house. In case of a workplace of government or a local body, head or office specified. Private workplace, person responsible for management, supervision, control. Dwelling house, person who employs or benefits from the employment. So these are different kind of employers. Okay. Morally, the person who is in charge of a department to whom the another person is reporting. It can be a government organization. So head of the government organization. If it is a private organization, head of the private organization. And for a dwelling house, the person to whom the employee is giving her services. Next comes workplace. What is a workplace? Section 2 of the Act define the workplace. Workplace, government funded entities, private sector organizations, hospitals, nursing homes, sports institutes, stadiums, workplace and provided transportation. Okay, some examples are here. Public schools, library, government hospitals, government offices, retail store, technology companies, construction firms, community hospital, rehabilitation centers, elder care facility, Olympic training center, professional sports, office buildings, factories, company provided shuttles, NGOs, startups. So dear friends, wherever the work is going, that is a workplace. Okay. Next comes the government, appropriate government for a workplace. Okay, if the funded by a central government or union territory administration, central government is there. If funded by a state government, so state government is there. And for workplaces that are not covered, but within the state's territory, so it's the state government. Okay, like being a private company, if someone is operating a private company, so the state government of that place, the employer of the organization, has to file annual returns to the state government of that place with the WCD office or a district office of that state. Respondent. Next comes the respondent. Who is the respondent? Section 2M of the Act defines the respondent, a person against whom the aggrieved woman has made a complaint. Okay, so the person who is a harasser, and into the picture is a respondent. Respondent means the person against whom the aggrieved woman has made a complaint or file a complaint. Next comes two types of committee we will understand. Internal committee. Each workplace must have a internal committee with a 50% reservation of the women. Okay. And every employer is required to establish internal committee through written order. Now, if a workplace is having a different branches, what's the case there? Every branch will have its own internal committee, must have its own internal committee. Okay. And this complaint committee has the power of a civil court to gather evidence. Let's understand what are the members of the internal committees. Who are the members of the internal committee? The first thing is the chairman. Chairman or the presiding officer will be a senior level women employee. Okay, there are 4 members in this IC. So 2 members minimum from employees, and those have a legal knowledge or has worked in the women cause or having experience in the social work. 1 independent member, external member from the NGO or association committed to the women cause, or someone familiar with the issue of a sexual harassment. So 1 member as an external member. So these 4 members will constitute the internal committee. The duration of this committee is 1 year, which can be extended later on. Local complaint committee. What is a local complaint committee? This is a complaint committee constituted by the district officer. So district officer forms the local complaint committee for the respective district. Again, the rule is that 50% of the members must be women. Now the question arises that this LCC will receive and address complaints of sexual harassment, but of whom? So employees of organization that don't have internal committee. Firstly, the people who are not having internal committee, the women in that organization can file a complaint with this internal committee, which is a local complaint committee. Or okay. Women working in unorganized sectors like housekeeping staff or dwelling place. And the third thing is, if the employer of a certain organization, although the employer is having more than 10 employees, but that employer is itself a culprit. So in that case, the women can raise a complaint with the local complaint committee. Okay. What are the members of IC? Minimum 5 members are there. The first is the chairperson, the women in the field of a social work or committed to the cause of women. Second member, a woman working in block, taluka or tehsil level or municipality in the district. 2 members. In these 2 members, 1 member should be from NGO, association or a person committed to the cause of a women or familiar with the issues related to sexual harassment. The another member, at least one, must have a legal background of law, and among these 1 must be a woman. 1 is the ex officio member. This is the concerned officer dealing with the social welfare of women and child development. So these are the 5 members of the local complaint committee. And the reason why this complaint committee is there, where the first reason I gave, that the employees of organization that do not have internal committee, women who are working at a unorganized sector like a dwelling and housekeeping and a dwelling place, and if the complaint is against the employer itself. In these committee, a woman can raise a complaint to the local complaint committee. Let's move ahead and understand what are the different types of sexual harassment. What are different behaviors and how to deal with that. Dear friends, there are mainly 2 types of a sexual harassment. Quid pro quo harassment. What is this? This type of a harassment is called this for that. When your boss offers you benefit or threaten to change your working condition based on your responses to his demand for sexual favor. If his boss is asking for sexual favors for some benefits, this is a quid pro quo harassment. What is this? It occurs when a supervisor seeks sexual favors from a worker in return for some type of a job benefit, such as raise better hours, promotion, or to avoid some type of pay cut like demotion. So this is the quid pro quo harassment. The next category is the hostile environment sexual harassment. Hostile environment. Hostile means if someone is creating an environment in which women is not able to work. Harassing environment. This is also a hostile environment sexual harassment. It occurs when physical, verbal, or visual sexual harassment is severe, pervasive enough to create a hostile or abusive work environment. If someone is using verbal way, physical way, and creating an environment in which women is not able to work, not able to execute her responsibilities. This is the hostile sexual harassment. It's like commenting about body clothes, dresses, sexual remarks, touching and grabbing. This is a sexual harassment. What are the types of sexual harassment? That is hostile work environment. Let us study in detail. Verbal, unwanted request for dates, sex, etc. Questions about someone's personal life, passing lewd comments, dirty or sexual jokes. Okay, this is a type of a verbal sexual harassment that leads to creating hostile work environment. The next is the physical, touching someone, kissing, caressing, patting, grabbing, pinching, using some physical way to harass a woman. This comes under hostile work environment. Visual, ogling, staring, posters, magazine, flyer, किसी को ताड़ना, ताकना, घूरना, to send posters, to send dirty flyers, magazine. This comes under visual harassment. Psychological, unwanted love poems, unwanted love letters, obscene poems, unwanted cards, sending these to someone. So dear friend, verbal, physical, visual and psychological are the 4 types of harassment. Examples of behavior. Let us understand what are the different examples of behavior that constitute sexual harassment. We will understand the behavior that may indicate underlying workplace sexual harassment and that is not sexual harassment. So we will understand these 3 types of behavior. One that constitutes sexual harassment at the workplace, verbal and non-verbal behavior, like sexually suggestive remarks, making comments, innuendos with sexual implications, offensive teaching, someone's personal body's appearance, inappropriate comments or jokes, making offensive jokes or comments on someone, asking intrusive questions about someone's personal sex life. So this displaying offensive material to someone through various mediums like pictures, posters, messages. So this is the verbal and the non-verbal behavior of the sexual harassment. The next category is the unwanted advances in the physical contact. Coercion of sexual favors, intimidating, threatening, or blackmailing someone for sexual favors. Unwanted social invitation, making unwelcome social invitations with clear sexual undertones. Unwanted sexual advances, making unwelcome sexual advances, whether accompanied by promises or threats, and whether explicit or implicit. Inappropriate physical contact, touching, pinching, caressing, kissing someone, fondling someone without consent. Unwanted behavior. Invasion of personal space, getting too close to someone when in a team meeting, or brushing against or cornering someone. So these are the unwanted advances in physical contact. Next comes the abuse of power and retaliation, where the person is utilizing the behavior, utilizing a power and retaliate. Retaliation for speaking up, threatening someone, intimidating or retaliating. Persistent pursuit, persisting, asking someone out despite being rejected. Stalking someone. Abuse of authority, using authority or one's power to demand sexual favor or to threaten. Undermining for sexual favor, falsely accusing someone in private discussion in exchange for sexual favors. So these are the type of a behavior that comes under sexual harassment. Controlling someone's reputation, spreading rumor or gossiping, this also comes under sexual harassment. So these are the things that comes under sexual harassment. Let's have a recap once again. The behavior that constitutes sexual harassment at the workplace, verbal and non-verbal. If you are passing sexually suggestive remarks to someone, passing lewd comments to someone, okay. If you are creating unwanted advances in physical contact by touching someone, by kissing someone, by creating hindrances, blocking someone. So these are unwanted advances. And if you are utilizing your power to threaten someone and asking for retaliation, destroying someone's image, stalking. So all those behavior that are unwelcome and of sexual nature comes under sexual harassment. Now let us understand the next is the behavior that may indicate underlying workplace harassment and merit inquiry that in future, if not taken seriously, that can convert into a sexual harassment. Public criticism or blame, demeaning assignment, giving unimportant assignments to someone, continuously blaming in an individual. Why? Excessive monitoring. Why this person is doing excessive monitoring? Constant overruling, workload manipulation, unjust removal of responsibility from a team, say, damaging statement, exclusion. So these are the behavior. If someone is creating these type of things during workplace, that can be considered as underlying workplace sexual harassment behavior, and a merit inquiry should be there why these are happening that may result in future into a sexual harassment. What is not considered sexual harassment? Now this is also very important. Work related stress. If there is a project going on in an organization and you are stressed being a female, it's not a harassment. Okay. Following up on a work absence, enforcing workplace rules, engaging in social interaction, job-related decision-making, fair policy enforcement, providing constructive criticism or feedback on work performance, encouraging collaboration, respecting personal boundaries. So, dear friends, these are the things that doesn't come under sexual harassment. The thing is that the sexual harassment is that if the behavior is unwelcome and not supported by a women and of sexual nature. So that is a sexual harassment. And although the other things may be there um, of the harassment, but this is not a sexual harassment. Do's and don't under the POSH Act. What should we do and what should we not do? Let us understand this. Understand. Be, trust, say, report, maintain, and treat. Understand anti-sexual harassment policy of the organization as a employee. Be aware of inappropriate behaviors and avoid the same. Trust your instincts. Walk away from uncomfortable situations. Say no to offensive behavior as soon as it occurs. Report sexual harassment if it is there. If it is unwelcome, report it. Maintain confidentiality. If there is certain proceedings going on, whether the person is a respondent, whether it's an agreed woman, whether it's an employee, witness, or an employer, maintain confidentiality. We can't disclose the matter to outsides. It's the violation of the law. Respect and dignity. Treat everyone with respect and dignity. Both men and the women are at the workplace, and make that workplace more inclusive so that collaborative way they can work. There should not be any kind of harassment in that. A safe workplace, an inclusive workplace is our goal. Don't under POSH Act. What should we not do? What type of a communication and behavior that we don't do? Refrain from making any sexually suggestive comments, remarks on physical attribute. Avoid engaging in any form of inappropriate behavior or abusive language. Physical contact. Do not initiate or engage in any form of physical contact or advances of a sexual nature. Hugs, kisses, touching, personal boundaries. Visual and written content. Don't display or circulate any pornographic material, posters, internet sites, or written content that may be deemed offensive. Avoid sending any written communication, including letters, email, or messages that contain suggestive or inappropriate content, like sending emojis. So, dear friend, we should be mindful in our communication and behavior. Being an employee at the workplace, both men and women are assigned certain roles and responsibilities at the workplace. They should execute their roles and responsibilities with full determination and dedication, and understand their boundaries. When treating each other, treat each other with dignity and respect and avoid any kind of a misconduct or unwelcome behavior at the workplace. Whether it is a visual, whether it is sending emojis, whether touching someone. So refrain from all this behavior. What are the effects of sexual harassment? Dear friends, the sexual harassment is a subjective matter. The other person can't understand the pain, what the woman is feeling, what type of effects that women is having. So psychological reactions are there, physiological reactions are there, career related effects are there. There's a depression, anxiety, guilt, self-blame, health issues, career issues are there. So these are the effects of sexual harassment. So let us understand and move ahead with a quiz. We have a quiz question challenge here. Quid pro quo sexual harassment. Example, promising favorable working condition in return for sex can be committed by managers, co-worker, vendors, and even customers. What should be the answer, true or false? The answer of this question is, take your time, false. Why? Because quid pro quo means harassment where an employee who is a boss can affect the performance of their subordinates, not managers, co-workers, vendor, or even customers. So only supervisors or members of management with authority to affect an employee's working condition can engage in quid pro quo harassment, where is the relationship of boss and a subordinate. Only that is the quid pro quo sexual harassment. Next comes, the next question is there. An employee may set higher standards of conduct for their employees than the law requires? Absolutely yes. The employee can create a better workplace policies, workplace environment. An employer will not be liable for sexual harassment committed by managers or supervisor as long as the employer is not aware of the conduct. What should be the answer? No, no, no. This is false. Why? Whether the employer is no or not no, doesn't matter. As per the law, it's the duty of the employer to provide a safe workplace to the women at the workplace. So an employer will be liable for sexual harassment committed by managers or supervisors with direct or successively higher authority over the victim, regardless of whether they are aware of the conduct or not. Next come, an employee should require a person who complains of a sexual harassment to provide a written statement concerning the matter. So what should be the answer? Answer is false. Although an employer should ask for a written statement, but it should not be required. If the complainant refuses or is unable, the employer should still investigate the matter. Na? Next question, if a victim of sexual harassment asks a manager or supervisor not to tell anyone about the sexual harassment incident, the supervisor should not take further action and the matter should be closed. What should be the answer? No, false. Once an employer has been made aware of the conduct that may constitute sexual harassment, it must investigate and promptly take appropriate action. Okay, because if not taken proper care, it may happen again and affect the workplace of the organization. Next come. A supervisor who touches an employee in a sexual manner only one time may be guilty of sexual harassment. True, yes. It doesn't matter once or number of times. Even just one single incident of unwanted touch can be sufficiently offensive to be sexually harassment. So dear friends, these are the questions. Hope you enjoyed this quiz session. We are about ending our first module. Let us understand and take you to the wiki survey. Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry Council of Ethics conducted a survey. So let us understand their survey. inappropriate behaviors that are deemed offensive or under Indian laws. We have three types of behavior here. This is the percentage, and these, let us do a quick look here and focus on the findings. Appropriate touching, inappropriate touching, 70.6%, sharing images or videos, 70%, demand for sexual request or favor, 69%. So what are the findings? So dear friends, more than half of the working professionals admitted to experiencing inappropriate touching or other physical advances at their workplaces. Many of the women who face such harassment decided against reporting these incidents. They don't want to report. There is an urgent need for awareness, prevention, redressal of sexual harassment in the workplace. Dear friend, if in a workforce 70.6% people are affecting by a sexual harassment, isn't that a issue? Yes, it is. Where 70% women are saying that someone is sharing emojis, videos, images, pornography to them. Isn't it a matter of taking a steps ahead? 69% said that a demand or request for sexual favors. Should this happen in an organization? Dear friends, there is a need to act, and POSH Act implementation at the workplace is the solution to these problems. So this is all about module 1. Dear friends, we will catch next in the next module. Okay, first the recap. What we studied in the module 1. What is POSH Act? What is sexual harassment? What are the different key provisions under the POSH Act? What are different types of sexual harassment, effects of sexual harassment, and a quiz. This is what we have gone through in module 1. So, based on this, let's continue. Dear friends, hope you remember the story of the jungle that I told you in the module 1. So, dear friends, the story continued. Now, the king of the jungle just arranged a meeting to understand what's going on in the jungle and what are the consequences about the protection policy. So, dear friends, the king had a meeting with all the animals. Everyone was happy with the action plans decided by the jungle king. Okay. And the safety in the jungle is again an utmost important thing over there. With this note, let us continue. What we study in this module is the redressal system. Once we have a sexual harassment complaint, so how can we redress that complaint? Who can complain? How can file a complaint, and different ways to report? What are the rights of complainant and respondent? And let's continue with the topic. Who can complain to complaint committee? In the first module, what we have gone through is that there is a complaint committee. Okay. Now the question arises, in case of a sexual harassment, who can complain to the complaint committee? So dear friends, let us go through this. In case of physical incapacity, if the complainant is not in a capacity physically, then who can complain? Anyone who can be relative, friend, co-worker, NCW, National Commission of Women, okay, or social and child welfare officer, any person with the knowledge of the incident with the written consent of the complainant. So there should be a written consent. Anyone can complain in case of physical incapacity. Mental incapacity. In case of mental incapacity, again, a relative, friend, special educator, psychiatrist, psychologist, guardian, authority, or any knowledgeable person with the written consent. Okay. In case of complainant's death, if the case is so severe that there is a complainant's death, then any person with the knowledge of the incident with the written consent of a legal hire. So these are the three ways. Then the fourth one is other reasons for inability to file. The complainant don't want to file. There can be any other reason. Then who can file a complaint? By any person who has the knowledge of the incident with a written consent. The simple thing is there can be physical incapacity, mental incapacity, complainant's death, or there can be other reason that complainant don't want to file a complaint. In that case, the concerned person can make a complaint with the written consent, and in case of complainant's death, with the written consent of the legal hire. How can I file a complaint under POSH Act? What's the procedure to file a complaint? What's the method to report a complaint? So dear friends, the complaint should be in writing. What's the time frame to raise a complaint? Complainant can raise a complaint within 3 months from the incident. To whom? Definitely to the ICC or LCC committee, or if you want to file an FIR, so that can also be possible. So these are the different ways the complainant can make a complaint. What are the different ways to report? How we can report? What are the different ways? How to report? Firstly, as I discussed with the internal committee in an organization, you should know the concerned person's contact number as per the anti-sexual harassment policy of the organization. If the organization is following anti-sexual harassment policy, maybe they have published certain pamphlets where there is a name and detail of the contact person to whom the person has to contact. Shebox. This is an online portal by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. There is a website, shebox.nic.in. So employees means female employees can also raise a complaint using the Shebox. Online complaint to the National Commission for Women. You can log into their website and click on the register online complaint. Or complaint with a police officer. So these are the ways, different ways the women can raise a complaint in case of sexual harassment. Next comes rights of the complainant and respondent. What are the rights? We must know what are the rights of the complainant, the person who is going to complain, and the respondent means harasser against whom the complaint has been raised. Complainant's right. Empathetic atmosphere for grievances. Confidentiality maintained. Copy of respondent's statement shared. Support for filing FIR if desired. Statement recording without respondent if intimidated. Right to appeal committee's finding. So these are the rights of the complainant. Let us look at the rights of the respondent. Fair and patience hearing for the case presentation. Confidentiality maintained by the complainant's identity. Copy of statement, evidence, and witness list provided. Right to appeal if dissatisfied with committee's finding. Morally, whenever the complaint is being recorded, complainant and respondent should be aware of their rights, how to proceed, and act accordingly. What happen after filing a complaint? Suppose a complaint is filed. Now, what's the next procedure? So let us understand what happened. What are the different ways how we will resolve the complaint? How we will handle the case? Dear friends, the complaint can be resolved in two ways: formal or informal. If it is informal, the process of conciliation will occur, and that is at the request of the complainant. If both the parties agree to settle down, settlement agreement will be made and the complaint will be closed. There is no monetary compensation given to the complainant. In a formal complaint, what happened? A proper inquiry is there. This has happened mostly when the matter is not settled through the conciliation. ICC will initiate the inquiry. Thorough, detailed report will be prepared. Report will be submitted to the employer. And there are two instances if allegation is proved or allegation is not proved. If allegation is proved and the harasser or the respondent, if found liable, he will be recommended for action by the employer. And if the allegations are not proved, the concerned committee can recommend no action for the concerned person. And the last is the appeal. So these are the two ways, formal and informal ways, in which the complaint resolution is proceeded. Let us take into a deeper inspect. Inquiry process at a glance. How this inquiry happens. If we look at the chart, incidents of workplace sexual harassment to be reported within 3 months. Yes. Any harassment incidents needs to be reported in a 3 months time frame. As I discussed, there are two types of informal complaint mechanism and a formal. In informal, the respondent fulfill his obligation as agreed upon and the case is closed. And if the respondent fails to fulfill his obligation, an inquiry will commence. Okay, that is the formal procedure. So in formal procedure, if it is an organization with a ICC, then ICC will take up the inquiry, and if it is a nodal officer at the LCC level, it will take up the inquiry. So ICC, one copy of the complaint to be submitted to the respondent, to which the respondent needs to reply within a 10 days. In case of nodal officer will proceed with the LCC, and again one copy of the complaint to be submitted to the respondent, to which the respondent needs to reply within 10 days. Okay. Then next is step is inquiry report. How much time it will take to complete the inquiry? So dear friends, inquiry report to be completed within 90 days by the ICC. Once the case is with the ICC, it should be completed within the 90 days. Once the inquiry is complete, there are certain reports. Report will be prepared, and the finding of the report will be submitted to the employer or district officer or the concerned authority within 10 days of the completion of the inquiry. In that case, there are two instances: complaint not upheld and complaint upheld. So complaint not upheld, so inconclusive, means the ICC committee can recommend to employer or a district officer that no action is required to be taken. And if the complaint is upheld, recommendation will be implemented by the employer or the district officer within 60 days on the receipt of the report. Okay. If complainant or the respondent both, if are not satisfied by the recommendation or non-implementation of such recommendation, the complainant and the respondent have the right to appeal to a tribunal court or a court within 90 days. So this is a process in which informal and formal way the resolution of a complaint is done. Here the LCC committee has the power of civil court for gathering the evidence. Suppose if the complaint is found irrelevant. So what's the punishment for the malicious complaint or a false evidence given? Dear friends, appropriate disciplinary action, which may include termination of employment or a legal proceeding, may happen. And accused can file a defamation or a criminal case against such complainant. So it's very important here that whenever, being a female, if someone is raising a complaint, it should not be a malicious complaint. Otherwise, a strict action may also be taken for that. Next comes a disciplinary action and compensation. If the complaint is true and the person respondent is found guilty, so what type of a disciplinary action and a compensation can be asked. Written apology, warning, reprimand, censure for their behavior, withholding of promotion, pay rise or increments, termination of services, undergoing a counseling session, carrying out community service, policy related action. Every organization, if having anti-sexual harassment policy in place in the service rules, so the disciplinary action can be taken with referring to those policies. Now, what type of a compensation can be given to the aggrieved women? It is based on following things: mental trauma or pain suffering the women is having, the loss of career opportunities the women is having due to that action, what type of a medical expenses, the income and status of the alleged perpetrator, feasibility of such payment in a lump sum or in installment. So these are the basis on which the compensation can be determined that has to be given to aggrieved women if the case is there and the harasser is found guilty. Very important is this. Let us make a note. POSH Act timeline. When submission of complaint, when we have to submit the complaint, what is the time period to submit the complaint? Within 3 months of the incident, the aggrieved woman can submit her complaint within 3 months of the incident. In what time frame notice can be given to the respondent? Within 7 days of receiving the complaint. Completion of inquiry. What's the time period for the inquiry? Within 90 days. Submission of report after within 10 days. Implementation of recommendation within 60 days. Appeal within 90 days of the recommendation. So these are few timelines that are very important regarding when to submit a complaint within 3 months, when notice should be given to the respondent by the ICC committee within 7 days, in what time frame the inquiry has to be completed within 90 days, when to submit report 10 days after the inquiry, implementation of the recommendation within 60 days, that is a task of the employer or the district officer, and the time frame to do an appeal on behalf of aggrieved women or a respondent is within 90 days of the recommendation. So this is the time frame for the POSH Act. Now next come the confidentiality. What things need to be confidential during the redressal process? The Act prohibits the disclosure of contents of the complaint, identity and address of the complainant, respondent and the witness, information pertaining to conciliatory or inquiry proceeding, recommendation of the ICC or LCC, action taken by the employer and the district officer. So every information should be kept confidential so that either the complainant or a witness or the respondent don't feel insecure. What are the duties of employer under the POSH Act? Let's understand. As per section 19 of the Act, following are the employer's duty: formulating anti-sexual harassment policy at the workplace, amended service rules with that policy, constitute an internal committee, display the policy at the specified places so that everyone in the organization is aware of the anti-sexual harassment policy, prepare and submit annual reports as per the statutory requirement of the government, facilitating a fair inquiry. It should not be biased. It should not be influenced. It should be fair enough. Conduct regular awareness session. Equipping the IC with the internal committee with the training wherever required. So these are certain duties of the employer. Act upon IC's recommendation, action to be taken. So these are the duties of the employer. So next, Consequences of non-compliance, very, very, very important. If any organization don't do the compliances, step away from the filing a return, what would happen? There can be legal consequences such as heavy penalties like a fine of rupees 50,000 for the first time offense, cancellation of a business license for repeated offense, punishment being double. So here is a one case study. Madras High Court directed a company in Chennai to pay an amount of rupees 1.68 crore as damage to an aggrieved woman. One more case study, Madhya Pradesh High Court levied a fine of rupees 50,000 from a hospital for not having an internal complaint committee in 2019. The court also directed the hospital to pay an amount of rupees 25 lakhs to the complainant for failing to redress her complaint. So dear friends, heavy penalties are there, cancellation of license could be there. So it's mandatory, just like filing a GST return, just filing income tax return. It's mandatory that every organization that is having 10 or more employees must follow and implement POSH Act, provide adequate training in the organization, file annual return, and become a POSH compliance organization. So the task is that every organization should be POSH compliant. Next question is how the organization become a POSH compliant now. Now the organization knew that organization has to create anti-sexual harassment policy, implement it at workplace, follow the POSH Act. So how the organization can become a POSH compliant? First thing is implementing a POSH policy in treating sexual harassment as a misconduct. Yes, we don't follow it in our organization. You have to make it very clear in your service rule also, in a POSH policy also. Sensitization of all employees through awareness session. It is mandatory that 2 sessions as an awareness session should be there at least for sensitizing all employees with the POSH guidelines. Constituting internal committee and training of internal committee on investigation procedure, confidentiality, timeline, the formats of reports. Mandatory external member who ensure fairness, neutrality, right steps for implementation of the POSH policy. Display POSH posters in organization, assist the complainant in filing a police complaint. If she asks, then assist that complainant in filing a police complaint also. And filing the annual return to appropriate authorities and POSH compliance to be part of director's reports. Dear friends, if an organization is considering sexual harassment as a misconduct, creating a POSH policy, sensitizing all employees with the training requirements, creating a IC committee, and choosing the external member as a fair and neutral approach, displaying POSH posters in an organization, and taking the recommendation as a priority in organization given by the IC committee, and assisting the women who is an aggrieved woman in filing a complaint and also filing returns in time. If the organization does all these things, it means that organization is a POSH compliant and women are safe at that workplace. So this is how the organization become POSH compliant. Let's move next. Monitoring, inspection, and annual report. Who will do the monitoring? As I told you in earlier module 1 that there is a POSH implementation structure from WCD central to WCD state, district officer, and WCD officer. So everything is monitored and inspected for the annual reports. What does inspection include? Government can instruct employers to share information anytime. Workplace can be inspected in case of sexual harassment. If someone is raising a complaint and ask the district officer or the WCD officer for for the said organization that POSH is not implemented, the license could be cancelled. So, respective government bodies are there that are creating inspection, and this can be done for the public interest or the well-being of women employees. What is the annual report? Government overview, implementation and track cases. ICC or LCC submits an annual report to employer or a district officer, and district officer sends summary to the state government, including complaint data, number of complaints registered, workshops and pending cases over 90 days, complaints settled down, and all the data in the annual return form is being monitored, inspected at the government level. So it's mandatory that we are a POSH compliant organization, and it's mandatory that we fulfill the statutory guidelines and annual returns in time. Next comes some relevant provisions of the IPC. As I told you that if women want, the organization should help her in raising a complaint. So these are certain sections, dear friends, very, very important. Section 294, obscene acts and songs at public places. 354, assault or criminal force to women with intent to outrage her modesty. 354A, sexual harassment. 354B, assault or use of criminal force to women with the intent to disrobe. 354C, voyeurism, watching or capturing the image of women engaging in a private act, stalking someone. 509, word, gesture or act intended to insult the modesty of a woman. So dear friends, we should know that these are various sections under the IPC codes under which the complaint related to sexual harassment can be filed. Dear friends, as we have gone through the POSH Act, types of sexual harassment and behavior, and we just understood about the redressal system. So let us analyze various situations and scenarios in which this sexual harassment is there, and you have to identify the type of a sexual harassment. Scenario example of a Sunita. Ravi, Sunita's supervisor often tries to touch her on one or the other pretext. For example, he adjusts her dupatta while she is swinging at her workstation on the pretext of covering her back. Sunita is very uncomfortable with his behavior. Her colleagues at the workplace ridicule Sunita and mock her for the special treatment by her supervisor. So they often gossip about her and Ravi. So dear friends, in this scenario, what type of a harassment is this? What do you think? The first thing is Ravi is trying to touch her on one or other pretext. Okay, one thing is that a physical one? He adjusts her dupatta, touching her. And Sunita is getting very uncomfortable. So unwelcome behavior is this. And her colleagues make fun of her just by saying that Sunita is getting a special treatment by her supervisor. So let us analyze the type of a harassment. Physical touching, because unwelcome and sexual in nature. Gossip, hostile work environment. So dear friends, this is the type of a harassment in this scenario. One more scenario, let us take example of a Rajni. Rajni is a daily wage laborer working at a construction site. Every day at lunchtime, Rajni sits under the shade of the tree to feed her 16-month-old baby. She finds Mohan, a worker staring at her from the distance. Rajni feels uncomfortable and asks Mohan to stay away from her while she is feeding the baby. However, Mohan persists and always find a place near her. The group of fellow construction workers now constantly catcall and whistle at Rajni every time she walks their way to refill the cement or mortar. When she questions them, they tell her they are only joking among themselves. So dear friends, What type of a harassment is this? We have to find out. So here, Mohan is a worker. He is staring from a distance. Rajni is getting uncomfortable. And fellow group are gossiping constantly, whistling. So these are type of harassment. Let us see here. Ogling, stalking, invading in the personal space are the unwelcome behavior. Gossiping by the fellow members, joking, whistling. So these all create a hostile work environment. Next is a scenario example of Shanu. Shanu is a bright young team leader working in a call center known to be forthright. She is dedicated hard. Next, take the example of Shanu is a bright young team leader working in a call center known to be forthright. She is dedicated, hardworking, and is a perfectionist. Shanu stays back at work late one evening with her colleague Sohan to complete work for an important presentation. Sohan offers to buy Shanu dinner and later drop her home since it's been a long day. After dinner, Sohan proposes to Shanu. He would like her to spend the night with him. Shanu refuses politely but firmly and goes home. Next evening, Sohan repeats his request and on Shanu's refusal threatens her. If she doesn't give in, he will tell everyone that she made a pass at him. So dear friends, what type of a harassment is this? Let us understand. Here, Sohan is a fellow who is, what is he doing? He is proposing Shanu to spend night with him. And on refusal of Shanu, what he did? He repeats his request and also threatens her that he will tell everyone that she made a pass at him. So let us understand the type of a harassment here. This Sohan tries to smear her character at the workplace as a person who wants to use sexual favor to her advantage. And this is unwelcome behavior, totally unwelcome sexual behavior, quid pro quo, because again, an example of a threat for the sexual favor. Next, take the example of Amina. Amina is employed as a domestic worker where she is expected to take care of all the household activities other than cooking. Most of the days, the lady of the house leaves early. Amina is there left alone in the house with a male member of the household. Amina finds the male member constantly leering at her when he is at home and often walks around the house wrapped in nothing but a towel, which makes her very uncomfortable. On one occasion, while she was sweeping, he pinched her bottom. When she protested that she will complain to the lady of the house, he threatened to accuse her of stealing and that he will ensure that she loses her job. So, dear friends, what type of a harassment is this? Let us understand this. Male member threatened Amina to keep quiet. He was leering. He was entering into personal space. He was physically touching her, pinching, and also threatening Amina. So, this is unwelcome sexual behavior occurring in a matrix of power and has a negative impact on Amina. So, this is quid pro quo type of a harassment as well as hostile environment. Because pinching, entering into the personal space, physical contact, making Amina uncomfortable, unwelcome behavior. That is hostile environment. Let's take the example of a next scenario of a Prisha. Prisha is a researcher at a media agency led by Dr. Gaurang, a well-known journalist. In the first few months of Prisha's employment, Dr. Gaurang is very pleased with her work and publicly appreciates her. Soon after, Dr. Gaurang frequently summons Prisha to his office on the pretext of work and makes verbal sexual advances and sexually colored remarks to her. He brushes aside her protest by saying that they would not be able to work as a team unless she interacted closely with him and they both got to know each other well. As a team, unless she interacted closely with him and they both got to know each other well. However, once she categorically rebuffed his sexual advances, he has stopped. Now he ridicules her work and humiliates her in the presence of colleagues and the staff. He discriminates against her by allotting projects to her and then arbitrarily withdrawing the work. So, dear friends, what type of harassment is this? Let us see. Parisha, okay, and her boss, Dr. Gora. So again, written that he makes verbal sexual advances and sexually colored remarks to her, making her uncomfortable. He brushes aside her protest by saying that they would not be able to work as a team unless he interacted closely with her, threatening her, ridicules her work, showing discrimination. So this is a verbal sexual harassment. Sexually colored remarks changes his behavior to ridicule and humiliate her in front of colleagues, arbitrarily withdraws work and discriminates against her. Hostile environment as well as quid pro quo type of a harassment, because he was summoning Parisha to his office under the pretext of work and making sexually advances along with the stating that working closely with him. So this is a type of a quid pro quo and hostile environment. So these are the few scenarios that we discussed. Hope it's now clear that what is hostile work environment, quid pro quo, type of a harassment, and what are the different angles and attitude of the harassment. Let us move ahead. Gender neutrality and POSH law. Dear friends, as the POSH law is there, it was enacted to prevent any form of a sexual harassment against female employees. So, if the sexual harassment is against the female employees, it never means that there is no sexual harassment in the organization for other genders. How we can create a gender neutrality policy? But POSH Act is not gender neutral. So how non-female employees can be protected? Dear friends, the organization, if required, can create, can implement a gender neutral policy at the workplace. And that policy can be a part of the service rules of the organization. In that policy, the organization can refer certain actions that we counted as a disciplinary actions for any sexual harassment. But yes, if this is that gender neutral policy will not be part of the POSH Act, no annual returns, no formal filing. But yes, this will enhance the work culture of the organization. But women are protected in the POSH law only. So organization, if want, can implement gender neutral policy as per the requirement. What are the manager's responsibility to prevent sexual harassment? In every organization, there is a team where there is a manager with a team size, with a number of fellow people inside the team. So the task of a manager who is leading a team is to create a respectful and inclusive culture within a team. Managers should take a reasonable steps to prevent sexual harassment and, if found, address the inappropriate behaviors with the concerned team. The manager must monitor the work environment of the organization, and if found something wrong behavior, must report it to the concern. If there is certain kind of a harassment, the manager must support employees in the reporting process, how to file a complaint, to whom to complain. And most of it, because manager is having accessibility to whole of the team, maintain confidentiality and preventing to become a victim of a sexual harassment. So by following these, managers can play a key role in creating a safe work culture in the organization. How can we create a safe workplace? As a whole, whether male or a female, we as an employee of the organization, as a team, as a manager, employer. So how that safe workplace can be created? The first thing is enforcing anti-harassment policies at the workplace. Ensure that the workplace is safe and welcoming for women. Prioritize sexual harassment prevention. Constitution of the internal complaint committees. Keep POSH training in positive aspects. It's a training for improving the workplace, enhancing the workplace standards, diversity, inclusion, safe workplace where male and female can work safely, promoting reporting and safeguard complaints or witness. If someone reports, he must not be victimized. If someone is a witness, he must be safeguarded. Avoidance of misuse of power and position. Very important that being a employee at any position, that employer should never misuse her power or a position or authority as a way of misconducting sexual harassment. Zero tolerance for sexual undertones. Yes, make it clear in the organization that we don't accept sexual harassment at any cost. We are zero tolerant organization regarding sexual harassment. And HR managers and the referrals, please conduct background checks when we are in a hiring process to understand the type of a behavior of the individual that entering into the organization. If we follow these things, our organization will be a more safer and inclusive workforce. What are the benefits of POSH training? Why we are here? Why we are doing a training? Dear friends, the first thing is respect. When women are safer at a place, they are doing contribution. When men know their rights, it's a respectful workforce and the workplace culture will improve. People are highly job satisfied and employee engagement rate will increase because it's a POSH compliant organization. The retention of valuable employees will be there and more higher productivity. A decade of POSH. As POSH was created during 2013 and now 2024 is there, it's been 10 years. So what is the scenario of the POSH in our country? Let us understand it. What's the status? During these 10 years, there is increased awareness of the sexual harassment. Earlier, people thought that sexual harassment means it's the case of a rape or a serious attempt. But it's not like that. Sexual harassment means any unwelcome behavior. So there is increased awareness in the sexual harassment awareness. Proactiveness of courts. Courts are proactive these days. As few days back, court just ordered to all the district officers to implement the POSH at their levels fastly. Discrete reporting mechanism. Reporting mechanism by the creation of the ICC committees, handling of formal and informal complaints, addressing the issues. So it's been discrete now. Strict penalties for the perpetrators and the organization. Yes. If someone is found guilty, being a harasser or a respondent, there is strict penalties towards it. And if an organization is found non-POSH compliant, not filing returns, again, there are strict penalties on this. So this is a status. Let us see what are the challenges as of now. Still, there are certain challenges in the implementation process. All the organizations are not in a process still now for POSH implementation or filing of return. Procrastination in process. Few organizations are doing the POSH compliance, few are not doing this. And there is a delaying in the implementation level. Lack of awareness. Small startups, small organizations, they are not aware of these rules and regulation. There is a challenge of a consistent monitoring. Still, there is a challenge. There is no mechanism that how many organizations are POSH compliant, but the government is doing hard on this and working towards the implementation. And this is the best thing. The government is working on this along with the support of all the organizations. Organizations are now very much aware that implementation of a POSH is very, very mandatory as per the statutory compliance. And women being one of the workforce of the organization should be safe and secure in that organizational place. Workplace should be safe and secure, and there should be clear communication to whom you have to complain in case of a sexual harassment. So these are the few status and the challenges with respect to the decade of a POSH. Let us conclude it, what we studied here. POSH Act, understanding the POSH laws and key provisions. Boosted employee understanding of sexual harassment issues. Empowering prevention of sexual harassment redressal process. Implemented measures for building secure and respectful work environment. Thank you so much. This is a presentation on the POSH, and I covered what is a POSH, what are the key features of the POSH, what is sexual harassment, types of sexual harassment, different behaviors, POSH guidelines, what is the complaint mechanism, how to redress a complaint, and I covered here different ways to become a POSH compliant, how to improve the work culture, what is a safe work culture. If you like the presentation in this aspect, please like, share it, subscribe at your end. And with this note, I am just stopping the share. Dear friends, POSH means prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. So it's much important that every organization should implement POSH in their organization, being a statutory requirement. But beside a statutory requirement, I think it's a cause that women should be protected at the workplace. So that is the reason that POSH Act is there. If we apply the POSH Act in the organization, our work culture will be safer, enhancer, better, and our productivity will increase. So I request one, whether you are a startup, whether you are a small organization, if you are having 10 or more employees, please implement POSH in your organization. If you want any further information that how to implement the POSH in the organization or what's the different formats, so please write to me at the nobleprojectwork@gmail.com. So dear friends, thank you so much for being with me, and safe workplace is the ultimate goal of every organization. So let us make it. Let us POSHify our organization with the POSH Act. Thank you so much.